Hello, I am 13, and tonight we are playing Bogles, and I'm joined by my resident Bogles master, Slippery Boy. You're cool if I call you that, right?
Not exactly what we talked about, but I guess I can live with it.
Okay, fine, be that way. I'm joined by Sriracha, who this was his first deck into Modern. You want to tell us a little bit how you actually acquired this deck? Because I think that's kind of a funny story.
Yeah, sure. So I was lucky enough to open a recent Masters pack that had a Tormergoyf in it, and I told you about it. And I was like, "Hey, man, I pulled this card, but I don't have all the other expensive pieces for it. What should I do?" To which your advice was trade it away immediately, and I held on to it. And then you ended up finding a guy who had pretty much all the Bogles pieces who needed the Goyf, and it just kind of worked out. Ever since then, I've been picking up like tiny pieces here and there, like ley lines I picked up over time, the Gaddics, but most of the core pieces were there. The lands I had to pick up, the canopies, but yeah, basically the deck was pretty easy to put together for like I don't know, under $100.
Yeah, so we are playing the fully stocked version of this deck. We have all the Horizon canopies, we have the ley lines that does drive the price up. As you look in paper, it's $710. I think we started this for the price of Termagoyf at one of the lower points at like $65, and that got you all of the Bogles, all of the Celestial mantles, like all the core spirit dancers, I think even the dryad arbor. Like we got you a vast majority of this deck for like $65, and then everything else on top of that has just been slowly picking up, and then you can move into like spirits and humans, and like it's a really good starting deck, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I've been playing this for a while now, and I mean, Bogles is very straightforward. So over time, you start to think about what your other options are, and like you said, like just because you have the mana base already, you can start to switch into spirits, and luckily enough, humans as well. I mean, green white is just. I mean, it has its uses. It's not played in every deck, but you can definitely find a few to slot into after this. Beginning with this.
Yeah, and I'd actually say one of the best parts about this deck is the fact that you can actually just like keep it built together, because for the most part you're going to hang on to the pieces. You have the mana base for better decks if you do end up wanting to move on and you build your collection, but you can always just whip this out and spike a tournament. Like if nobody's ready for Bogles, the Menace comes out and he just wins games. Like people aren't prepared and they're going to lose.
Yeah, totally. I that's exactly how I feel about it. Like the pieces aren't expensive enough to try to trade away unless I'm desperate. And honestly, yeah, one day you're just like, you know what, screw it, green white hexproof, let's go, and yeah, you might win.
All right, so down to the deck tech, because not everybody is super familiar with the strategy. So these three guys right here are our core strategy. We have the Slippery Boy himself. He is just a 1/1 hexproof for either a green or a blue. And hexproof kind of evolved from Shroud. It just means that your opponent can't target it, but you can. And that's actually very core for this deck. As you notice, the other core creatures is Gladecover Scout. Exact same effect, although it's just a hard green. And then Core Spirit Dancer gets bigger the number of auras you attach to it, and also recycles your auras. As you play them, you get to draw more, and this is going to be your primary source of card advantage. Any notes on these three guys?
I mean, just to point out, just being besides being a great draw engine, if you can stick a single aura on the core and they don't have the right removal, like it gets pretty out of hand pretty quick.
Oh yeah, most of the auras actually have like power to adding to them, and then +2/+2 for each one. Typically, you put out a 1 mana aura, it gets plus like 4/2 in the case of Grand Core. You draw a card, you draw another 1 mana aura, you just slap it on, and it just steamrolls the opponent. Well, I'm going to take 1 second to diverge here, and going back to the flavor text here. Ogle the Bogle or Goggle the Boggle. Doesn't matter. You weren't going to catch it anyway. So I am, just because I need to, going to address the fact that this is a Bogle. I call it both. I think most people call it both. A couple of salty people will tell you it's one or the other, but just for funsies. So this is actually Boggle, Boggle, or Bogill. But basically, it's old Scottish term for a ghost or folkloric being. And eventually, it ended up becoming bogey as we know it today. And basically, all of the nomenclature points to it being bogle. But I'm going to call it a boggle just to upset the couple of people that insist that that's the way it has to be.
I'm particularly fond of that Bogle man.
Yeah, Bogleman, the German goblin. But either way, so that's kind of the core part of the deck. On top of that, again, we have a bunch of 1 mana auras. Totem Armor is one of the more important keywords in this deck, Totem Armor says if the creature were to die or be destroyed, you remove the totem armor instead. So there's a couple of fringe cases with sacrificing and engineered explosives and stacking replacement effects. This deck does eventually get you a pretty high level understanding of replacement effects, but you have to play it a bit. Usually it doesn't come up. And then we have the general hoser in this deck is the Daybreak Coronet. So you can only target something that already has an aura on it, which luckily that's our entire deck. It gets +3/+3, first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. So if you can stick a Daybreak Coronet and have it for a couple of turns, you just gain a ton of life. You have a giant creature that can attack and block, and it is just nasty. Sriracha, how big would you say your biggest Bogle has been?
Jeez.
I think I saw you with a Spirit Dancer at like 42/42 or something like that. Like, they just get massive.
Yeah, that was against that stupid Lantern control where they couldn't attack into me and I couldn't get rid of their bridges in time. So it ended up turning it was probably a 42/42. I ended up winning that luckily, but yeah, like, just imagine a Rancor with Daybreak on a Core Spirit Dancer, and you know, that's the dream right there.
Yeah, so we are spending a little bit more time on this deck tech, but then on top of all this, we have a little bit of a suite to help protect ourselves. Leyline is there because target player sacrifices a creature, we'll get around our totem armor. Path to Exile, there's always problem creatures you need to get rid of, especially at early game if they come out big. And then Spirit Mantle is protection from creatures. In this deck, it basically reads target creature is unblockable. Anything to note there?
No, I mean, pretty straightforward stuff. I think Path is some of the best, removal in the game. But yeah, I mean, there's very typical white cards, especially Leylines being so popular.
Yeah, the Leylines are actually pretty core to the deck. It took a little while for people to move them main board, but they're just so good. And that's pretty much the deck there. There are some higher level plays like going and getting Dryad Arbor, but if we see them, we'll address them. For the most part, though, if you take a look at the curve of this deck, it's almost all 1-drops, a couple of 2-drop hosers, and then Leyline that you're hopefully putting in for free. It's very low to the ground. We're probably going to be mulliganing a decent amount, and yeah, this deck's going to lose to itself more than lose to what the opponent's doing. And that's what a lot of people don't like about it, but we're going to take advantage of that tonight. Well, we got paired for our first game, and we are definitely taking the play here. And what do you think of this hand?
Still loading up for me. There we go. All right.
We have 2 Bogles, a Path, and a Spirit Mantle.
Playable. I mean, you'd have to more lands than you really want to see. The removal's nice. You're going first. I don't know. You could play it and run the risk. This is where Bogles is like, well, you just gotta hope. But
yeah, unfortunately, though, this deck does not mulligan well. I'm very afraid if we go down to 6, we're a little light on our land count. We really have to have a lot of pieces to make it work. At the very least, we're going to have a creature that can block for an eternity until we draw into some auras. I'm a little inclined to keep it.
I'd agree.
So, best top decks here, auras. Core Spirit Dancer wouldn't be terrible. You typically want to run out Core Spirit Dancer the same time that you can drop an aura, and it looks like we're going to be a ways away from that. But we're going to make opponent hate life when they see this Bogle go onto the stack.
Now this is where they instant concede because they already despair they won't.
My favorite thing about this deck is when you do start off with Leyline and they just concede on turn 0. Alright, so Steam Vents, it's looking like the Phoenix deck just because that's a lot more popular these days. It could potentially also be Storm. And Ethereal Armor is a pretty good pickup there. So I'm going to start off with Spirit Mantle. It's just the most effective use of our mana. Plus, as I said, going Core Spirit Dancer into Ethereal Armor would be a fantastic play. I'm not really sure what opponent's on, but being red means we could potentially see a Blood Moon, and our hand was stocked with non-basics, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and grab our planes here. We do have to have double white for Celestial Mantle.
You only need single white for Spirit Mantle. You need double white for Daybreak.
Sorry, Daybreak. I don't know why I've been trying to call that Celestial Mantle. Celestial Mantle is the EDH card that doubles your life. Alright, and this is when Path is going to show some... Oh, look at that. So smart and lean. So what this means is we can run out a second Glade cover here, Path their thing in the ice. Dryad Arbor unfortunately comes in with Summoning Sickness, so it's not going to give us mana this turn. And then we can follow up the following turn with Core Spirit Dancer, Ethereal Armor, and hopefully start chaining together a bunch of draw spells. So it's probably correct form to do that at upkeep. I really don't want to risk that they have counterspells. Most of the time this Phoenix deck doesn't have them, but seeing as that's our only piece of interaction and bouncing all of our creatures by flipping this thing in the ice, we would lose our auras attached to it. So kind of just making the safe play and giving them an additional mana here.
Yeah, I agree. It's right to be proactive against this deck, especially with how quick they can get the Phoenix out.
I mean, it's very possible that they just Manamorphose into Faithless Looting into a Serum Visions or Thought Scour and put 3 Phoenixes into play. Like, it's not unheard of for this deck. We're looking at 9 in the air, and then we have to actually try to kill our opponent off of 2 auras, which is not an ideal draw for our deck. Well, that's a little sad. They bolted our tree.
That was the real threat on the board.
Ooh, they're on the Pteramander version. Alright, so what is our clock here? Because this is going to cost 1 less for 3 cards, so that's going to cost 5. So they can only flip one of these, but that's still a 5/5 flyer. If we Rancor and Ethereal Armor is giving +3, +2, +2. So we have our opponent dead next turn.
Seems like it, yeah. Oh, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, they're tapped out. Let's see what we can do. You're going to get, yeah.
And I'm going to offer this trade. If they handle our board, they're going to handle it all at once. Again, their deck can, out of nowhere, flip a ton of Arclight Phoenixes, and we could be looking at 5 damage from this and 3 Phoenixes attacking us without too much effort on their part, so rather just get one of these off the table and make that not a problem. Yep, and that locked it up. Alright, so Phoenix, what do we want here? Rule of Law looks interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Rips.
So this Phoenix deck typically turns into just like a generic blue-red control deck after sideboarding when they expect Rips. That doesn't mean that we need to skimp on these because their most explosive starts are going to start off with a lot of Phoenixes. Rule of Law means that they're not going to be able to flip their thing in the ice very easily. It's going to have to be done across 2 turns, across our turn and theirs. It also means that they can't really bring back Phoenixes if it hits play. This might be overboarding, but it's on my consideration list. Jamoka's command could potentially be next level if we're expecting a Pyromancers Ascension.
I would probably put in the Spirit Link so you're not outburned. You can gain more life.
Pyromancer's Ascension. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, if it has the same name as a card in your graveyard, it gets a quest counter with 2 quest counters. After that, it starts doubling all your instants and sorceries. This can potentially be a problem card. I do like the idea of the Spirit Link, though. Of note, this says lifelink without saying lifelink, so having lifelink in this means you're getting double life for however much damage you deal. A lot of their creatures are problems and Phoenixes are recursive, so kind of want Path to Exile. Like, a thing in the ice is probably the worst thing against our deck at the moment. As far as cuts, I really like Spider Umbra for the reach here. We probably don't need as many Hyena Umbras. If they're going to be interacting with us, it's going to be Thing in the Ice or maybe Anger of the Gods.
You could probably cut one of the Griff booms.
And I'm not overly concerned with getting our face bolted. I actually think we might just go down the ley lines and up the rule of laws.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So this is our board in package. We're pulling out ley lines and pulling these guys out. So I missed a card. Oh, the path. Yeah, that seems fair. Oh boy. That can't be a keep, can it?
I mean, you have Hexproof, Horizon Canopy, 1, 2 Umbras. It's not great, but like you said, sometimes if you mulligan, you're not going to get what you need to play at all. And you have the card draw off the Horizon, so if you get desperate.
I kind of feel like we need to mulligan here because we really only need one Bogle and we have 3 in our hand, which cuts us down to like a 5-card land or 5-card hand here. And this is basically a 3-card hand. Can I go any lower than this, though? I think that this is just keepable enough that we have to stick with it.
It is, I mean, Bogles is very cheap, so you could probably go down one more, but if you're screwed, you're screwed.
I'm going to take our scry here, and that's a pretty good scry. Because seeing, like, we brought in 6 cards from our sideboard, and we have no sideboard hate. We also don't really have any, like, lifelink or interaction for a Thing in the Ice. Like, this is not a very good hand post-board. But mulliganing is a death sentence for this deck. I'm running this out. It's very unlikely that they have a surgical extraction and a way to kill it, but it just seems better to run out a redundant piece plus, like, Slippery Boy. He should stick around. And we are currently up a match against Phoenix.
It's better than when I played humans against Phoenix, so, you know, Bogles for the win.
Yeah, humans feels like it's pretty dependent on Thalia to make anything work. Oh, wow. Would you look at that? 2 Phoenixes already coming back. Well, they showed us what a linear game plan can do. And we don't even have a land here. So Rancor currently represents the most damage. Although we're currently looking at 6 more damage, which will put us down to 8 and 4 cards in hand against a deck running multiple lightning bolts and burn spells.
Best you can hope for is a Spirit Link and Daybreak to kind of alleviate it, but you also need the land drop, so...
Yeah, this is looking pretty over.
I'd say let's just see what your next card is, but yeah, I don't know what you're going to look like to come back from this. Miracle.
So Path can save me a turn from Thing in the Ice. I probably have to Ethereal Armor just to be able to get any damage in. Our opponent is at 11, which is not nothing.
You just got to pull 3 paths in a row, and then you might be okay.
So what does this actually mean? I can Path an Arclight Phoenix. I'll take 3. They're probably going to flip Thing in the Ice, but if they don't, then that means I'll have 1 more turn. I'm just going to pass with Path up. I mean, we're probably dead, but this is our only actual, like, potential out here. Like, if they flip thing in the ice and we path it, that'd be fantastic for us. Alright, so they don't want to flip it. But that means we're going to have to path here, and then they're holding this up to flip whenever they decide to. So if we get a land here, I actually think we're under Mocha's command. What do we actually fight? The Arclight or the thing in the ice? It's a painful land. So, hold on. What does this actually mean? We can put a 1/1 counter and fight the thing in the ice now. We're currently looking at 3 on the table. If they don't have a lightning bolt or can't chain together 3 spells for this Arclight Phoenix, we survive for 1 more turn. We'll be hitting for 4 down to 7. And we can follow it up with an Ethereal Armor and hopefully another 1 mana aura, and that would be lethal. But if we tap this Horizon Canopy twice, we die, so that doesn't work. I know what we do. We have to fight during their attacker step. So they either have to flip thing in the ice or not flip thing in the ice, and that'll buy us at least 1 more turn. Not looking good, though. It's not good to be on the back foot with Bogles. Alright, so this is where Dromoka's command is pretty good. I know you're asking me about this. So we're going to prevent all damage to target instant or sorcery we deal this turn. And then we're going to fight... Oh, I guess fighting's not even going to cover it here. We have to put a 1/1 counter and fight. But that actually still works. We'll kill the thing in the ice, and then their Arclight's going to get exiled. So 1/1 counter, fight. 1/1 counter, we fight that. Playing a dangerous game here. Especially because if they have another instant, they're just going to flip it again. Yep.
There we go, Bogles playing by the seat of...
Alright, does anything change?
Well...
I don't think we saw anything we care about. We just need to go for our good start and not their good start.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they boarded into hate too much. Like, you could probably put in a Nevermore just as more hate against their deck. I don't know how much enchantment removal they're running.
Alright, this is start on a Bogle, and then hopefully draw a land and explode. This is keepable, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's going to be turn 1 Glade Cover into turn 2 Rancor more than likely. If our opponent is on Anchor of the Gods to try to deal with our board, that's not going to happen until turn 3. And hopefully we'll have a Daybreak Coronet on by then. They always have one. And they did bring in the surgical extractions. Alright, I can't imagine we lose this at this point unless they have a thing in the ice with like 4 gut shots. Or potentially a Simian Spirit Guide with Anger of the Gods. That would be bad. Not likely, but that'd be really bad. Alright, so assuming this is Thing in the Ice, which it is, what do we hold up with Core Spirit Dancer? I assume we just go Daybreak Coronet and hope that they can't flip. I don't know, Sriracha, what are you thinking? I'm thinking we do Daybreak Coronet here. If they do flip it, we can follow it up with Core Spirit Dancer into Spirit Mantle.
I'm actually thinking you put a rip out there to prevent any recursion from the arc lights. It's tempting to go Daybreak and just go big early. The question is, do you think they're going to combo out soon enough? Do you think they have the hand to be able to get Thing and Ice off?
They almost always have the hand. They just need a Manamorphose or a Gut Shot and they can get there. I'm not really concerned with a 3-2 coming at me. I'm concerned with this getting flipped back to hand and losing all of my auras. So I think I just need to put the fastest clock on. Rancor is whenever it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, which means this gets flipped up to hand. We can re-Rancor. Yeah, I think gaining life here is going to be the most relevant thing, and we can't Daybreak unless it already has an aura on it, so this just feels like highest upside. If they don't block it, then they're down to 5.
Yeah, there's no real wrong answer, and then if they can't, next turn you throw a Spirit on there and it's unblocked.
Yep, and then we just hope that they can't flip it. I mean, this is a turn 3 very explosive kill. But there's going to be Manamorphose into... Well, they need to have Gut Shot as well as... a Gut Shot or a Manamorphose as well as 3 1-mana spells, which isn't unheard of.
If they return it to hand, I'd say try and get the Glade Cover out, and then next turn play it with Rancor, and then play a Spirit so we can't block with it.
Yeah, we might be skipping this just because this will be lethal through Spirit Mantle. Yep, they always have it. I know MTG Goldfish's metadata is a little biased, but they're showing this deck as 7.5% of the meta with Dredge is 5. I'm just going to say 5.5. And then after that is Burn with 4. Like, these two decks just really show how bad Graveyard Recursion is. And, like, this setup didn't even... Like, we didn't care about their graveyard. They're going to be swinging in for 10 here. If they don't have anger, we're going to be swinging back for lethal. Oh, I take that back. They're swinging for 13 here. So we're actually dead. I guess our Glade Cover can chump block, but... Yeah, we're Glade Cover Scout on chump block duty. That went very south very quickly. And there's nothing else that we can do, right?
No, and you're going to ping yourself for 1 anyway to...
Yeah, it's fine, though. We're going to be stopping 7 here. Although pinging us for 1 means that we're dead in 2 turns to Arclight, which means we literally have no outs here. Yeah, this deck is mean.
There's no point in playing Rancor. Just put the Glade Cover out as a...
There's no point to, because even if we chump block, the next turn the Phoenixes would kill us, which means that we'd have to top deck both a 1-mana creature and a Spider Umbra, and then that's still, we're going to be dead, because we'd need a chump blocker for the ground as well.
I just want to point out that although we would have lost, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. The Rest in Peace would have taken care of those 2 flyers, but...
It would have, but we also wouldn't have gained enough life, and we wouldn't have put our opponent down low enough. Like, that was just a losing position.
The lack of lands really hurt us. We needed, like, 1 more.
Yeah. Alright, well, this looks doable. We're going to do double Daybreak Coronet.
Yeah, playable.
I need to play a land first. That's kind of how this deck works. You play lands and then creatures.
The problem with Bogles is you see this and you're like, cool, double Daybreak, but it's like, you're not going to get those back, and if somehow they remove one of them, you're not getting the other, or the Grispoon, you know, so it's like...
Alright, so what I see here is I am expecting Fairy Podmother. This is going to be the deck that sacrifices creatures to get Kiki combo out. if that is actually my read, that means Core Spirit Dancer this turn is gonna be amazing, as they won't have removal for it. They are also showing me green, which means I'm less likely to expect any interaction. If they do happen to have Path, which is probably their matching color. Oh, I could have gotten in for free there. I was too busy trying to explain my line. But if they Path Core Spirit Dancer here, we'll have enough mana for Griffspoon and Daybreak Coronet next turn. Okay, this is looking more like Ponza. Oh, fun. Oh, too late. So we have 2 basics to draw into, and white's the only one I actually really care about at the given moment.
Yeah, that hurts.
Alright, so this is looking super bad. I think we have one more turn to draw a basic, and then we'll have to just go to sideboard and actually play around Blood Moon. Alright, and there's another one. And not a basic. Alright, go to sideboard.
Dang, that thing went off real quick.
Another opportunity for Dramoka's command to be good. You see Blood Moon come down, you float a green and a white, and then you make them sack an enchantment. So Ponza is the land destruction deck of the format. Unfortunately, our deck is not super well tuned for that. We only have 2 basics as it is. Gaddock Teague is not going to do much here. Their big threats are going to be Bloodbraid Elf, Tireless Tracker, and Inferno Titan, all creatures. Some older lists kind of had Bonfire the Damned, which would make the second part relevant with the X in their converted mana cost. Funny enough, I think Nevermore could be good here. We just name Blood Moon or Stone Rain or whatever we feel is relevant at any given moment. I kind of like Path to Exile. It's a way for us to get our basic if there's like a Blood Moon on the stack, or take out their Tireless Tracker. As far as cuts, do you think we need Leyline here? I'd imagine only bolts going at our face, and we kind of don't care about that.
Yeah, I think the ley line's an easy cut.
Then I'm kind of thinking we don't care about reach, so we can trim one of those guys and probably just one of the Hyena Umbras.
Yeah.
Alright, Windswept can get us a basic, but no Bogles, so this is a mulligan. And this is going on Core Spirit Dancer. Hopefully they cut all their bolts. So this is another moment where Bogles doesn't do very well mulliganing. We really just need a Bogle. None of these cards are super impactful except for the Spirit Dancer, and a lot of people keep in removal for those. Updating game record, we will be keeping this, and I like Ethereal Armor. It's a 1 mana pump spell that should grow up pretty large. I know we're expecting Blood Moon, but Horizon Canopy represents the most, and if we do happen to draw something that requires like green next turn, we can do it. Like a Bogle into a Rancor. And let's see if the opponent kept Bolt. If we had a higher land density here, I think that Nevermore could probably be a better turn 1 play because they're not going to be able to Bolt if we name it. Yep, they have it, so this is probably a loss. Man, been having some terrible showing for decks lately.
Yeah, that's just bad luck.
Yeah, I don't have anything to do here. Like, even Green-White Tron I know is a non-optimal build and you just need to run 4 cards, but I did a practice league and Ella Schnorren just came out like every game and I never saw her.
You can always sack your Horizon Canopy for the card draw if you get desperate.
I think I'm going to wait for one more draw there, because if we get a land, we can Nevermore and call Blood Moon, and then we should be fairly safe, although they don't have it here. They don't have a Tireless Tracker either, otherwise they would have followed it up. Okay, I don't understand their sequencing.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Maybe they're worried about taking hits if you get something out, so they don't want to lose life.
I'm so confused, but okay. So they tried to beast within our land that we could sacrifice, so we just sacrificed it and drew a card.
Although we could have had a 3/3 beast token that we could give totem armor to.
I guess that's a consideration. I was just like so hastily, like, why did they do this? It would have, Anger of the Gods wouldn't have killed it. Yeah, that actually, you're correct. I think I punted super hard there. Yeah, we're discarding a hand size. I'm just going to move on with my life.
Just path one of their things, man. And Bogles not doing so hot.
Again, there's some really good matchups for Bogles and some really bad ones. Really bad ones are Terminus and Blood Moon. Like, can we even keep this? This is basically a 3-card hand. We care about 2 lands and a single Bogle.
Nope. Maul.
Alright, that's better. Do we keep the second one and just try to go all in on a Spirit Dancer?
Ballsy. I don't know if I'd want to do that.
We're already on a bad record. I'll actually play correctly. And looks like we're playing against Burn, so that was actually a really good call. Land, land, land. You beautiful, beautiful goblin.
Now, if we lose against Burn, we should probably just call it a night, I think. This is like the ideal map.
We don't have any of our life gain in hand, though. Oh, Jermoka's command.
It is also going to hurt when you start cracking lands, getting Temple in there, cracking Windswept, Horizon Canopy.
So what I'm actually doing here is I'm going to Hyena Umbra. It gives me totem armor in case something goes horribly awry, but I'm going to be able to get a Temple Garden without doing too much to myself here, and it's also going to keep the Goblin Guide at bay. Then if it does attack in, we can get some knowledge and then crack the Windswept. But swinging in doesn't really benefit us at all, and taking 2 is kind of a problem, so need to stay on defense. I know a lot of people have been playing this light up the stage lately. I'm still not sure if I'm a huge fan of it, but they seem to be liking it.
Everything I've read about it seems pretty positive, and I guess I can see the purpose. Red not having card draw without like the risk of discarding, you kind of just it just gives it to you.
Yeah. So risk factor here, I'm gonna take the 4 damage. It's pretty easy. Like 3 cards for them is probably averaging at least 6 damage. So man, I'd really, really, really love to see something here. Alright, so I think our play, we can't, if we Spirit Dancer, it has to stay on defense, and Searing Blaze is actually a real card. Dramoka's command here can let us fight after we attack in and hopefully draw a land. I think we're on Ethereal Armor. That's actually going to put kind of a real clock on. We'll have a 4-turn clock with Dramoka's command up off the Horizon Canopy. We'll take 1, prevent damage, and then fight the Goblin Guide.
I think the Dramokas to prevent damage to you this turn will keep you alive longer. So I would prevent it. I would use it for like a lightning.
Alternatively, I could... Yeah, I think Horizon Canopy's going out, but I think we're just on Dramokas. I'd prefer not to take the 1 if possible, and cycling this into potentially a Daybreak Coronet would mean that we just win. And if our opponent's greedy, they'll just flash this back. We can prevent 4 damage. Alright, or that happens.
How's the stream going?
Hi, Drunk Magic. It's actually going kind of poor.
Oh.
But Bogles is not carrying the day.
We're not even surviving against Burn, which is like our Happy Magic Christmas Land matchup.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, 3/3 first strike hexproof. What, you just not drawing what you need, or?
Well, we didn't know that this was Burn going in, but we kind of had a mediocre 6, and we lost to Arclight Phoenix. We had 2 very explosive starts. We had a turn 4 kill. That was going to be overkill by like 12 damage, but they ended up killing us first. I mean, I have to take the 4. That's just where we're at.
Yeah, they have 2 in hand because they can just throw into.
I say it all the time, but this is exactly why you need to know your outs.
Daybreak. Throw an Ethereal on there for extra damage.
I did. We're swinging in with a 9/9 Lifelinker Vigilant.
For the record, everything I see is delayed, so if I have a comment that's like 2 minutes too late, everyone give me, please forgive.
Oh, how bad is it? Because I thought I actually corrected that. There used to be like a 2-minute delay, but I went in and changed my settings to be like Streamer Pro or whatever. So I thought it was doing better.
Let me next time mention as soon as you're about to do something and do that action immediately, and I'll let you know how long it takes before I see it happen on the screen.
I'm going to move Leyline of Sanctity. Moved.
That was such a shame scoop. That was awesome.
It took like a full 10 seconds.
Okay, well, sorry, I thought that you're more up to speed than that. So what I'm doing here, Spirit Link, again, it reads Lifelink, it's not Lifelink. So we can gain double life off of it. It can have Lifelink and Spirit Link. Each instance of Spirit Link is actually on its own another way to gain life. So if you have 2, you're going to gain double life. If you have 2 in Lifelink, you're going to gain triple life. If you have double Lifelink, you only gain 1 Lifelink, though. So that's why this card is in here. It's also an aura, tons of synergies. Nevermore is actually quite bad in this matchup. It sounds like you could name Lightning Bolt and potentially blank 4 cards, but all their cards are redundant, and you're spending 3 to blank what could be 1 card in hand.
I get the other Dramokas.
Yeah, I was just pulling that in. We saw that this blanks 3 damage, can cause a fight, can make them sack a piece of hate. Just a lot of good things there. I'm also a fan of Path to Exile. I don't like giving them lands, especially because they are the version with risk factor, so they actually do utilize a lot of mana. Same with the Spectacle. But getting rid of a Goblin Guide early or a Swift Spear is just necessary in this matchup.
I can't see with the delay, but you're going to mainboard that last ley line, aren't you?
Yep, and that was going to be the last thing. Is Leyline makes it so that we can't be targeted. This is one of the best cards against Burn because all of their damage to the face has to go elsewhere. We're going to mulligan for this. We want this more than a Bogle.
Oh, Cole, before 13, before you actually play this, I've played against Burn and they sideboard in Snaring Bridge, so you're going to want the seals in there.
And that is why you are the Bogle Master. All right, so as far as cuts, First Strike is relevant here. Reach is not. Spider Umbras come out. They don't really have any Anger of the Gods or anything that hurts their matchup. Spirit Dancer's gonna have to come out. I think that this...
I'd cut Spirit Dancer, it's fine.
Yeah, Syrian Blaze is bad, and if we are hexproof and our creatures are hexproof, this is the only place for them to send.
Your game or the internet? Yes, you are. I see.
So everyone, sorry about that, but apparently this stream is brought to you by Comcast, where a stable internet connection is not a thing that they've ever heard of. I swear Comcast drops our internet for 45 minutes at least once a week, and it's not like I live in the middle of nowhere. Like, Google Fiber was competing to get to my house, but they didn't quite make it before they got shut down. So, yeah, this is looking a little rough. I can't rejoin my game. I'm guessing that we ended up just losing it. So we're going to have to take that as a loss, I believe. I don't know. Like, I should be able to return to game, but I don't see it. So maybe our opponent just took a draw. I don't know how that works. I should be more familiar with Magic Online, but either way, we are back. So super sorry about that delay, and I didn't even hit record, so I'm going to have to download the second section off of Twitch. All the amazing professionalness. So, yeah, what do we even call that? Do I put a draw there in the record?
Yeah, I'd put that one as like a draw. That was, I don't know. Just don't make a habit of it.
Well, I've literally recorded probably, let's see, just because I'm curious at this point. So 6, 12, 18, 22 videos, all probably averaging 2 videos. So that's like around 50 hours, and that's my first disconnect while streaming. A little unfortunate, but yeah, let's try not to make a habit out of it. Let's go ahead and queue up for the next one. This has been sad for Bogles. Again, I ran another Dry League with this, and I ended up going 4-1, and I didn't start getting rough hands until the last match, and it was against Slivers of all things. Like,
yeah, just can't catch a break right now. Plus, I think after your sideboard, that Burn matchup would have been pretty.
I didn't even get to see my hand. Apparently, opponent waited around for 18 minutes before they just got it. We're supposed to have like a 25-minute clock, which means that'd all be me except for 3 minutes. I guess that makes sense. I might have timed out there. But ley lines, oh wow, even my images got screwed up when I had to restart. So we are on Bogles. All that Tron stuff was very, very bad. I guess I have to update all of them.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the screen, just the images.
Yeah, so ley lines, though, very good against Burn. They can't target you with Burn, which means it puts them on the creature. Most of the creatures can't get through like a 3/3 first striker. Oh, boy. I think this is a mulligan again. So, like, this is a 3-card hand, kind of 4-card.
Yeah, you can't play it.
And this looks a little bit better. A lot better.
Yeah. definitely.
Huh. So whenever I look at these, the first part is usually the card. Prestige normally means that it comes out of like a chest or something, but I don't know what the rune or prestige is. I haven't seen this before. It looks like, is that a leaderboard person?
Probably means he makes Bogles players cry.
Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is looking like it's a turn 1 Glade cover, turn 2 Spider Umbra into Ethereal Armor, and then hopefully we see a third land so we can Spirit Dancer and then draw another card off of it. If not, this is going to be a 2/2 into a 4/4 into a 8/8.
Depending on what they're playing, I would maybe put a core out there just to get the get the card draw out. But ooh, maybe not.
So we're playing against Valakut, which means this is going to be a race. And
The card draw would help with that.
it would, but I have to get a Temple Garden here for double white. So I'm already below 18, which means that the race is already in their favor since they're counting to 18 instead of 20. Valakut math is... They must have a very loaded hand. Okay, so I'm actually going to take 1 second to try to break this down. So...
Also, 13, your deck list on the side of the screen shows Tron, not Bogles.
Fun.
Yeah, dude. Internet probably.
Well, that's actually an OBS issue because I had to restart my computer. So they probably have Primetime, Sakura Tribe Elder, Angers, Farseeks, Explorers, Scape Shift. They have to have a pretty stacked hand here. So let me make my play for turn, which is going to be a Spider Umbra and then probably an Ethereal Armor, just so that Anger of the Gods won't blow us out super hard. The plan here is to get this to a 4/4 so Anger can't kill it, and then I'll update the deck list to be what it wasn't last time. OBS has some weird caching issues where they like cloud backup all of the files that you put into it. And then they reference the cloud files as opposed to your local ones, so I can't just keep updating the local images. What opponent is doing, though, is they're doing all these fun little ramp spells. Kalani Heart Expedition is going to get them 2 lands after they make 3 land drops. And then they're going to use Valakut with Scapeshift or Primeval Titan to throw a bunch of mountains at our face for 3 damage apiece. If they have multiple Valakuts, it's a lot of damage. And opponent's getting a little low here. I think I'm just going to go for the kill. Because what's going to have to happen for them to kill us here is fetch land, which they didn't have a land on turn 2, into cracking Kalani Heart Expedition, and then Scapeshift sacking all 5 of the other lands to get mountains. All 5 will see each other enter, and they'll hit us for 18, and we'll die. But if that happens, I suppose that happens. Alright, and we're going to have flying, and we have trample, so they should be dead here. Yep, they see it too. Have you played this matchup before? I know that one guy at Paragon likes to play Primeval Titan Valakut.
No, actually, Valakut this is the first time I've seen Bogles versus Valakut, so kind of an interesting learning experience. The Burn matchup and the Arclight matchup I've already seen.
I feel like our deck's faster. So Gaddock will stop Valakut, but he will also die as soon as Valakut is online. So I'm actually going to throw him over here in the maybe pile. A lot of Valakut players will actually concede to a turn 1 leyline on the play. They have to know that we have this here. Nevermore can come in. We're going to be naming either Scapeshift and or Primeval Titan. As far as what we care about, Path to Exile is quite bad. They can sack Steve on a whim, so they'll just make their landfall. Jamoka's Command is only going to stop a bolt. That doesn't really do a whole lot. Spirit Link will keep us above 18.
The life and put you above it.
Yeah, so Valakut math is at 6 lands, they can hit you for 18. At 7, I believe they can hit you for 24 or something like that. And then it just gets. I should probably play Valakut at one point in time so I can. Or just sit down and do the math. As far as cuts, I am not a huge fan of Reach here. They have no flyers. Our first strike doesn't really matter a ton, but they do have Anger of the Gods, so I don't want to get completely rid of this. Replacement effect for Anger is if the creature were to die, and Totem Armor is if it were to be put into the graveyard. That should be the same terminology. Didn't we have to call a judge on a ruling for you at one point in time there?
Maybe. I don't know if it was me, actually.
So, Totem Armor. Oh, you can't even see it here, but it reads if the creature were to die, you remove the Totem Armor instead. And Anger of the Gods, if the creature were to die, you exile it instead. I believe that the Totem Armor takes precedence there, but we're going to try to grow it out of range anyway. I don't think we care about anything else. Rule of Law is not going to cut it. We just want to make this pretty quick. I guess that means Teague is in over the Umbros. That might be correct on the draw, but not the play.
I think I'm back.
Welcome back, Drunk Magic.
Hey, Discord had to update.
Well, it's better than Comcast shutting down your internet and making you lose against Sure Thing.
Fair point. Yep.
Alright, so hand analysis, we have a turn 1 Bogle into a turn 2 life-linking Ethereal Armor. Just giant threat.
The only way this hand would be better is if that Nevermore was another Umbra or Leyline.
Leyline, because then they couldn't shoot us with Valakut.
Yeah. But this is a pretty solid hand. I'd be very happy with this.
Yeah, so unfortunately this doesn't give +1/+1. I'd actually love to see another Ethereal Armor here so that we could grow out of Anger of the Gods. A turn 3 Anger of the Gods will kill our Bogle and we'll fall very far behind. But we get a Daybreak, which isn't horrible. So if we put Lifelink on this and then it gets +2/+2, it will still die to Anger. I don't know. What's our play here?
Anger deals how much again?
3.
I mean, the Daybreak, you play the Ethereal and then the Daybreak and you stay out of Death's range.
Daybreak can't stick on it, though. So Rancor is going to come back if the creature dies. Then Ethereal is going to make it so that we hit for 5. Spirit Link would put us at 21. I think Ethereal is a bigger threat, so in case that they do actually have the Anger here, we're just going to go for Lifelink. Plus Horizon Canopy is getting ship-ins for some damage here. It's not looking good. Oh, it's just an Explorer. Okay. Alright, so they're getting their ramp on. I don't think we can kill our opponent here. So, kind of just go over my lines. I'm playing the land for turn for sure. Daybreak Coronet would put us at a 6-something. Either way, it's a 2-turn clock, assuming an opponent can't gain any life. Ethereal Armor is going to make it a... So +3/+3, so a 6/4. But Nevermore is the interesting card here. Nevermore is kind of like Meddling Mage. It's probably the hardest card to play in this entire list. It's not... A lot of people don't jam it just because of the difficulty. Looking at my opponent's board, I'm expecting a Primeval Titan next turn or a Scape Shift. A Scape Shift won't kill us. A Primeval Titan is going to be pretty deadly. So I'm thinking I can Nevermore now. That'll give us another enchantment on the table, but leave us open to Anger of the Gods, versus just getting in for some lifelink and then putting up with whatever Primeval Titan comes down because he's going to be chump blocking next turn.
I mean, it's a tough call either way. I like the Nevermore play, but you got to wonder what they have for enchantment removal if they decide to go like, oh, Nature's Claim, and
If they
then
have
you're
Back
up
to
the creek.
Nature, like all of this is for moot anyway. But I'm gonna go Daybreak Coronet. They're gonna have to chump block if they're on Primeval Titan, and they can't kill us with Primeval Titan or with Scape Shift. Plus, we're gonna gain so much life out of this that this seems fine. They're gonna have to double Anger the Gods to kill it, and they didn't have one last turn, so. But I'm getting rid of Primeval Titan. I think they understand that Primeval Titan is going to be on chump block duty, which is why they had a pause there. They even have to Summoner's Pact for it. So this means that next upkeep they have to pay 2 green, otherwise they lose the game. Oh, they went and got Rex Sage. That's cute. So Rex Sage is going to come down and blow up our Daybreak Coronet, possibly our Rancor, probably Daybreak. Yep. So, do they have another one? Because they could have just blown up these two. Alright, so I'm assuming we're in a similar position next turn. Daybreak Coronet's going to, again, probably be our best play. They're going to have to spend 4 mana on that Summoner's Pact, which means they'll have 3 mana to work with. I still don't think that means they can kill us, and this is just lethal. So Ethereal Armor is going to grow out to be big. Daybreak Coronet's going to make sure it kills them. And then Rancor gives it trample, so we're going to trample 9 damage over. Sorry, Valakut, we were a little faster.
Ooh, Bogles proving its worth.
That's what this is supposed to do. So, of note here, the Spirit Link does go onto the stack. Unlike Lifelink, it doesn't actually get calculated before state-based actions are checked. That only matters if you're going to go negative health. But this is a 10-8 with Lifelink. So we gain 10 life going up to 41 and adding 10 more life onto the stack. We would have ended that game at 51. That was a landslide.
With only 4 lands.
The 4th land is actually what closed it out there, but they had to use their Summoner's Pact to go get a sideboard hate piece, and it didn't even really slow us down. We still killed them the next turn anyway.
Yeah, so to your point, Cole, when Bogles goes well, and for anyone who watches, that is what it should be doing. Like all the other games, losing to Burn, losing to Arclight, like when Bogles works, it really works.
To be fair, Comcast lost to Burn, not us.
Yeah. You can't handle the Comcast factor. You only do so much. There's no sideboard hate for that.
I mean, I guess you could get like CenturyLink as a dual line in, but like nobody's gonna set that up at their house except for maybe Hyder. All right, no lands, easy mulligan. This is Leyline. Oh my gosh, this is so tempting. Do we try to scry into a land?
Yeah, why not? Live a little.
We're on the draw. Like, we've already shown what Bogles can do. Like, again, this is a deck that spikes hard or fells gloriously.
Bogles is about having fun. If you're not having fun playing Bogles, you're playing it wrong.
You know what? He's a bog. I'll take that.
Or you're getting screwed. Or you're getting totally screwed on cards. But, that happens in every deck.
I liked our opponent's leyline. Alright, so this is looking like prison.
Maybe it's the mirror match troll. We don't know.
Leyline, but no land?
They went temple. We didn't keep a land, no. Undo. We want this dude. So, opponent's gonna Blood Moon us next turn. Oh no, they're ad nauseum? Wait, I don't know what's going on over here.
Jank deck!
We are in the Felling Gloriously bracket at 1-2-1.
I mean, you know what to play with your one land, right?
The thing that keeps it alive? Yes, please.
Yes.
If they don't Blood Moon us here, which as their 3-color deck, Blood Moon is becoming less likely, especially because they have no basics out. But if they play Plains, I wouldn't put it past them. We can Ethereal Armor and have a 5/5. Oh, sad panda.
That hurts.
Yeah, so this is Prison. It's Enchantment Prison. It doesn't look like it's like our Zur list. It looks like it's the Enduring Ideal deck. Which means if we get a land, we could actually potentially pace this, but... Okay, they have Lotus Bloom. That we can't beat. So if they end up having Solemnity... We kept a no-lander against a Ghostly Prison deck.
Well, if they draw it out long enough, we might get the lands we need.
We're going to draw a Dryad Arbor. Huh, they set a stop in our upkeep.
Maybe, with our luck, we'll probably draw another ley line.
Well, we have a plan to get 2 lands now. It's a bad plan, but it's a plan. Their Lotus Bloom's coming down, which means they're going to have Form of the Dragon at the ready. They'll start shooting us for 5 every turn. If they do that, though, they go down to 5 life, and we will probably be able to kill them with the land drop. Okay, well, there goes our Path to Exile plan. Or we're just going to refresh it. Unfortunately, no more stacks of Totem Armor, which means they probably have more Wrath effects, and we're not going to do well against that. I honestly don't know what to expect here. Opponent now has 2 cards in hand. Plenty of mana. Is this the Enduring Ideal? Yes, it is. So what their deck does is they cast this Enduring Ideal. They get a search for an enchantment and put it onto the battlefield, and then they shuffle their library. Then Epic is a trigger that will make it so that they can't... that's fine. But they can no longer cast spells. Instead, they have to cast this at their upkeep. So they're going to slowly try to hardlock us out of what we're doing here. All of our non-creature spells are now going to be turning into birds. I guess you can't read that very well.
Birds!
Dovescape!
Hey, birds. Dovescape. After Cole, thirteene, we need to make a little anecdote here about at the time we played Commander with Dovescape, Possibility Storm, and Confusion in the ranks. Confusion? Dissension. Confusion in the ranks.
Confusion.
All out on the field at the same time. It was pure pandemonium. And we should never do that again.
What broke it? There was something at the end that broke it, wasn't it?
I basically conceded.
Yeah, somebody quit to get it out.
So I was running Narset, the Enlightened Master, EDH Chaos deck. I had Confusion in the ranks in my deck. Whenever an artifact, creature, or enchantment enters play, its controller swaps with another player. So I was running Dovescape with... Oh, whoops, sorry, opponent. I meant to F6 through this. I was running Dovescape that counters all non-creature spells, and you get a number of birds. Then when the birds entered, you traded them for somebody else's creatures. Then I also had Authority of the Councils. Authority of the Councils makes it so that everybody's creatures enter tapped, and I gain a life every time a creature enters. So all the birds were coming in, I was gaining a ton of life, and they're all getting exchanged for something.
And then show Possibility Storm, the best card ever printed in Commander.
Oh, so awesome. But didn't I mob rule at the end of that?
I
Uh,
honestly can't remember.
Maybe. I don't know. That game was pretty rough at the end.
So I'll pull up Possibility Storm here, but do I actually want a Core Spirit Dancer here? If I Core Spirit Dancer, I can start casting these and drawing cards. Opponent's going to start hard locking us, though. So I think getting in for 4 might be highest upside. This is a
Mm.
5-turn clock? 4-turn clock.
Well, how do we win? Because with Phyrexian Unlife,
Oh yeah, we're on like a 7-turn clock. I just want to see what their win condition is, so I'll attack in.
well,
We've
so the
lost
thing is,
this
we have
one.
no way to get rid of Phyrexian, so we can't win.
So they don't have Solemnity yet, but they can actually go get it here. I want to see what their win condition is. In all honesty, they're going to mill out before we do, but they're probably going to go Form of the Dragon and yep. So we have to hit them for a lot, otherwise Form of the Dragon's just going to continue shooting us for 5.
Can we keep casting instants to get doves and block with doves?
This doesn't actually target, it deals damage.
Uh,
Damage to any target.
Start bringing doves on our side so we can chip in with one doves.
They have Ghostly Prison out, so we can't attack in unless we actually pay mana for it. So I'm gonna start applying pressure. They know what our deck is. I want to see them like start pinging us. We're on a 4-turn clock from their side, but this will allow us to start drawing cards. Funny enough, Jamoka's command doesn't work here because it's target player and they have ley lines, so it would have to be us.
Well, already thinking of the next game, I can say we need enchantment removal.
But that EDH game also had Possibility Storm. So what would end up happening is you'd cast your first spell, it'd be countered by Dovescape, you get a ton of doves, and then you'd cycle for a spell, then that spell would resolve, and then you'd have a bunch of doves to exchange, and then the card out of the top of your deck would resolve. It was a pretty interesting game. Okay, so they went and got Periphery Nodes. This means that they can destroy the creature with the least power. So Core Spirit Dancer's not long for this world, but I want to draw some cards, so gonna go ahead and go start getting stuff for that. Shockland would actually make it 1 turn faster, and I got the wrong color. Okay, second Core Spirit Dancer.
I love that they have Dovescape out there. Makes me so happy.
Yeah, so the
Makes me
Zerd
sad.
deck that I played, this is actually kind of a more stock build of it. They added red so they could hardcast Form the Dragon, so if it's in your opening hand, you don't get screwed by it. Looks like they're also running 2 copies, and that is enough for me to concede. 2 Forms of the Dragon means they're going to shoot us for 10.
So, just on a one-off on the side note, Cole, can you ping me what what that deck is after this? Because I might want to buy that. That looked fun.
Buying into modern, huh?
Well, I've got my one modern deck.
So I have a foil rugged prairie. I'd be happy to trade to you.
Hey, anything's possible. Yeah.
So again, this might be the one that they're playing is from 2017. It is kind of an older deck. The idea, though, is that you basically just get to Form of the Dragon. I'm pulling this up on stream because I'm sure somebody else might be interested in it. So Simian Spirit Guides lets you rush out a lot of stuff. Lotus Bloom lets you rush out stuff. Blood Moon's going to lock people out. You get Dovescape as a tutor target for Enduring Ideal. Form of the Dragon is your primary win condition. Overwhelming Splendor is humility to put on your opponent so none of their creatures matter. It also makes it so that things like Reclamation Stage don't trigger if that's going to be how they remove things. With Night of Autumn, this is insanely relevant. Then you get Phyrexian Unlife and Solemnity, which I don't think Solemnity was printed here. In their version, it's gain 10 life.
Oh, this is beautiful. Yeah, no, I might need to branch to that.
I'm sad Drunk Magic has seen this and now he wants to build it.
Yeah. All right, so Teague comes in,
Why
they
is it
can't
bad?
cast big spells. Leyline comes in, they can't target us with Form of the Dragon. Nevermore means that they'll never get their epic trigger, so they have to hard cast their stuff. As far as our deck, Totem Armors don't mean much. They do have a couple of Wrath of Gods, but I mean, Reach doesn't do anything here. Spirit Mantle is completely useless, and I guess that means we're just going to cut... Oh, Path is bad. Path is really bad.
Unless you decide to keep a no lander and you need to get your lands for yourself.
Yeah, we should be faster than our opponent, but we kept a no-lander.
Wait, Mark, you know I run, or no, Sriracha. You know that I run, Solemnity Lock in Modern right now, right?
No, I think when we played Kyle, he had a kitchen Finks deck that he ran with Solemnity, but I don't remember your deck. Was it a vampire deck?
I'll bring it in tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have time to play Modern tomorrow, by the way, but I'd be happy to look.
I'll throw 30 minutes on your calendar to talk about.
I will get yelled at if I play Magic tomorrow. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so this is bad for us. We've got to let the Slippery Bogle die, which means we're just going to get in with Rancor damage here. And we drew a Dryad Arbor. So Periphery Nodes is secretly really good against us. It's destroy the creature with the least power. And then, so we're going to have to let the field have nothing on it for a minute and then run out Teague. Alright, yeah, we want a Totem Armor. Teague can wait a turn. They won't have anything for 4 yet anyway. Although they do technically run Simian Spirit Guide. So Gaddock Teague, very good hate bear. They won't be able to cast Wrath of God. They won't be able to cast Enduring Ideal. They won't be able to cast... Jeez, there's just so much. Form of the Dragon.
It's interesting they left their ley line in there.
So they have Nick, though, so they're going to add color equal to their devotion. This adds 2, as well as being a decent, like, just card. Like, they care about enchantments, number of enchantments.
Well, as an enchantment deck, I can sympathize, but it really does nothing against our deck, considering our deck doesn't directly target the player.
Alright, and so there's a number of things that they can have. I'm not attacking with Gaddock Teague despite the fact that he's 2 damage, because we're still threatening lethal next turn, and if they have something like a Snapcaster, I understand they don't have any blue, but if they have a Snapcaster, a Vendilion Click, just anything along those lines, then it means that we're going to die.
Remember the one time you attacked with Gaddock and they had Settle the Wreckage? Mistakes were made.
No, they actually flashed in a Vendilion Click.
Oh, is that what it was? I thought they settled to clear the board.
No, I just wasn't paying attention. Like, I play blue-white all the time, but I kind of just wanted Bogles so I could no-mine through it and kind of just run out my stuff, and I attacked with Teague, and they flashed in Vendilion Click, took my last aura, and blocked Teague, and it went downhill quickly.
That's the nice thing about Bogles. It's really like... It's a friendly deck for beginners because the concept, I mean, there's some intricacies here and there, but more or less it's a very simple concept. You get your creature out, you make it big, and you attack. There's not a lot of interaction, like a couple paths. So for somebody really getting into Modern like I did, it was cheap to buy into, and it like kind of just helped me learn what the landscape was, and it wins a bit. Like, I mean, I know there are jank decks that win occasionally too, but Bogles is like slightly less janky, I guess. And it actually allows you to feel like you're winning and you're not going to like shops where people are super competitive and you just lose every game. You know, you might win 1 or 2 or you might win 4. You never know. But
well, Cole, would you call it linear? Because I mean, I would think that it is a linear deck. You have your win condition and you move toward it. Yeah.
It's 100% linear. We're doing one thing and just one thing. So just pause for a second. I'm actually going to go grab our forest here. It sucks if we drop top deck our Daybreak Coronet, but they are a Blood Moon deck, so I want to have at least a forest since I have 3 green cards in hand. This is 100% a linear deck, though. What it is trying to do is just basically run out a creature, toss some auras on it, and attack in with a 10/10 Vigilance, Trample, Lifelinker, and your opponent can't interact with the hexproof. So all removal cards are down. You're doing your one thing and you do it well. You have a couple of pieces because they're necessary.
Hey, thirteene. Just so you know, the only card you could have pulled was your forest anyway. So really, don't feel too bad about if you pull a Daybreak. It sucks, but
Verdant
it's not like
Catacombs
you could've
can also hit Temple Garden.
right, but the Blood Moon would screw that plan up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the forest is like the smart move. So I was like, yeah, you pull a Daybreak, it's gonna hurt anyway.
I need another martini, so I'll be right back.
Plus, thirteene, you have a flying, reach, trample, 6/3. So there you go.
I've never actually seen this on Magic Online. Choose a replacement effect to replace its destruction. Click on a permanent to lose it. I'm trying to click on Spider Umbra, but it's not working. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they hide it. Interesting. Not hide it, but it's not as easy to see as you'd expect.
But kind of going back, you have a couple of pieces of interaction like Path to Exile, but your primary game plan is just you get hexproof, your creature gets hexproof, and then hopefully you have higher card quality than your opponent. So, Periphery Nodes is going to destroy Bogle again. They're going to go to 5. Taking off the Spider Umber is going to put them at 4. I can crack the Misty and go get a Dryad Arbor. Put them to 0, but...
I would maybe hold on to the Misty for possibly getting another white source so you can get the Spirit Dancer out there and hopefully be able to cast and get more card draw. But there's no point in cracking the Misty yet.
Well, the Misty cracking would be get the Dryad Arbor, and then the Dryad Arbor will take the hit. But I think Spider Umber is just going to go away here. This Periphery Nodes is very bad for us.
And at a 1-drop, that's crazy.
It's a reprint of Drop of Honey from Legacy.
So the Rancor comes back to hand. You play the core, then you play the Rancor on top, get the card draw.
I am getting Dryad Arbor here.
Are you? Now, why are you choosing Dryad over Temple Garden?
Because Dryad can attack.
But so did the core could have attacked too once you got an enchantment on it.
This is also going to buy me a turn against another Periphery Nodes. It just feels like this is right. Our opponent probably doesn't have Path. If they do, I'm getting another basic. Alright, so Horizon Canopy, this costs 4 to get back, which means Horizon Canopy is live. The way Phyrexian Unlife works is if they were to go below 0, they go to 0 instead. So I think I'm just going to get in with Dryad Arbor here, since it's still going to put them to 0. And then most efficient use of my mana is Teague with Rancor, and then put out the Fast Land. Then opponent can't Enduring Ideal if they wanted to. don't think I like Bogle here. So Ethereal Armor is +3/+3. That's going to be 7. Still not lethal. I think Griff's Boon is representing the best line.
I'd agree. I'd say holding on to the Bogle's smart. Griff Spoon giving the flying. It's only +1/+0, but
Yeah, but I'm basically just trying to get them to 5, so next turn it's lethal.
yeah, if you can get one more turn and get the Ethereal on.
Well, Ethereal Armor on the Dryad Arbor is probably going to be lethal too, so they need to have 2 Oblivion Ring effects with 4 cards in hand. Yep, and that took it. So I'm going to count this as a 3-2, despite the fact that it wasn't. We should have had Burn. We just have so many life gain cards. Between the 4 Coronets and Hexproof creatures that can't remove and the Spirit Link, post-boarding is fantastic. We stole game 1, but it's what we do. We gain life and Burn counts to 20.
Bogles is really good at spiking game 1, by the way. And then you just have to hope your sideboard is good enough against what you get. It is really based on the meta, too. Like, Arclight is just tough. But
yeah, I mean, Arclight, we could have had Arclight if they just didn't see one of their Phoenixes or didn't have Manamorphose into... I think they actually had another Manamorphose. I'm trying to recall. It was either that or Gut Shot, but they had another free card because they did it with 3 mana.
And I mean, speaking of the meta plays for Bogles, like when we were playing and they, right when Jace was unbanned and people were running Terminus, blue-white Terminus, like playing Bogles was just rough. I'd go like 2 blue-white control games and I would just lose outright every time because it just, you can't, they got to Terminus way too easy, and then you see the meta shift away from that, and so you don't see as much blue-white, at least at the local store we're at. But it's definitely, like, with Arclight, it's still tough, because they're just so fast, and they go wide, and then you're kind of like, all right, well.
Yeah, so I'm going to do just a mild, like, rundown. Arclight Phoenix is a race. They have Thing in the Ice that's bad. Burn is a free win. Death Shadow is kind of a free win. Affinity, it really depends on if they can fog your combat with an Arcbound Ravager. This is just a race, and they're about as fast as we are. Spirits, you're typically swinging in with something, so you're going to keep pressure up, so that's decent. Humans, you're probably out by the time they're still in your hand. Jund, with Assassin's Trophy, it's a little harder because if you go in on a Daybreak Coronet and the Assassin's Trophy, the other aura, keeping it on, it will fall off, and you only run 2 basic lands. Hollow One Burning Inquiry is bad on the draw. Hate Bear's Thalia is just bad. Same with Eldrazi. This is just the Death and Taxes bracket. Settle the Wreckage from Jeskai. Terminus from Blue-White. Those are hard, but for the most part, everything else here we have game against or race just as fast but gain life, so we don't care about their linear game plan. But yeah, I mean, budget Bogles. Again, almost all the price here is in Horizon Canopy, the sideboard tech, and Leylines. You can build it without that. It's not ideal, but you built it for like $75, and that's pretty dandy.
thirteene, do you want to talk about the benefits of Horizon Canopies and the more expensive pieces in this deck?
Sure. So let me switch over to other chat, or other scene. Horizon Canopy. Pay 1, sack it, draw a card. So pay 1 life for any mana seems quite painful, but we're getting a lot of life to gain it back. This is a land that guarantees we don't get mana screwed. Or mana flooded, because if we start seeing a lot of mana, this becomes a redraw, which is why it's so expensive. You're looking at $60 for the Iconic Masters, 23 online, and that's the cheap one. This card just does so much. It goes into basically any deck with green or white in it, because the effectiveness is you can redraw if you need it, while still hitting your required mana for that color. This is the card that kind of makes it work. Yes, the deck works and you're going to steal some wins, but this is what gives it the additional grinding points that gets those bad matchups out of the way. If they Terminus away your Bogle, you can always just go grab another one. If you don't see an aura and you need one and you're invested on a core Spirit Dancer, you can redraw, get an aura, and then start your draw engine over again. Just really great. Leyline, I mentioned it before. Liliana's sacrifice effect, target player sacrifices a creature, gets around totem armor. Totem armor is if it were to be destroyed, not if it were to be sacrificed. So coming in at $20 or $8.50 online, this card makes it so that you don't sacrifice your creature, and that is really what you want there. As far as everything else, a lot of it is the fact that we're running a Verdant Catacombs as well as a Misty Rainforest as our green fetch lands. You could probably get away with a Wooded Foothills, and by probably, I mean you definitely could. This is driving the price up pretty high again just because fetch lands are in demand. You need green to go get Dryad Arbor if there's a sacrifice effect, another way to get around Liliana. You can get away with 4. Windswept Heath was in the Challenger deck from Khan, so it's kind of everywhere. It's on the cheaper end. Gaddock Teague, we just saw him work against Prison. Non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or higher can't be cast. That's Wrath of God, that's Terminus, that's just about everything you care about. Stops Bonfire, doesn't come up all that often, but X in their cost is... they're problem cards. Like Conflagrate against Dredge, he just stopped so much of it. The reprint made him buyable.
You were going to speak that point. Gaddock is probably the cheapest you'll see right now. So if you don't have him, pick him up. It used to be, how much was it? 30, 40 bucks? Now it's like 10, under 10.
Yeah, and now the box topper is $40. I think at one point you were looking to pick him up and he was close to like 48 or 50.
Yep, and then I held out and I got them for $10 each. Smartest move I've ever made.
Yep.
Besides getting Bogles for a Tormordoid.
Yeah, he just does so much. He edges all your bad matchups. He's just the best sideboard card, especially since you're in those colors. Then you get Rest in Peace, Stony Silence. Their value is pretty well known. They just stop the degenerate strategies, although, as you saw, our strategy goes pretty fast and hard. Like, sometimes I don't even want to do it. I mean, bring it in.
An important thing to touch on, I know we didn't get a chance to really see it or maybe talk about it, is that the reason why we run so many enchantments like Leyline, I'm losing my mind here, Seal of Primordium, all these cards that you could get instant speed ones for, is because they tie in so well with Ethereal Armor that counts for every enchantment on the board. So if you have a Leyline on the board, turn 0, and then you get Ethereal out, that's another damn +1 right there. So it's even if you play and the tie into core and everything else, like the enchantments really play well together, and so it's easy to miss. And I probably didn't even realize it when I first started that like they all count towards each other, especially with Ethereal. It's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, so this is each enchantment, not each aura. They all get +1/+1 for your ley lines, for your seals, which is why we run Seal of Primordium in the side as opposed to something like Nature's Claim or Disenchant. These just grow. Same reason we end up running the Rule of Law over Aethersworn Canonist. It's just Storm Hate, but Aethersworn doesn't actually get auras or get enchantments. Rule of Law does. Then the other thing is Dryad Arbor. This seems like a weird card. Most people not familiar with it kind of struggle. It is a land and a creature. It's a forest. So you can fetch for it off those fetch lands. You can bring it in for a Liliana Edict. You just go fetch. You sacrifice a creature. You sack Dryad Arbor. I mentioned it against Periphery Nodes, but it really didn't come up. But I think those are some of the more complicated lines. Obviously, there's power, though. Like, if there's creatures, Spirit Mantle gets through them. If there's Wrath of Gods, Totem Armors replace it. And I think EE is about the only thing we don't have a great thing for, and even Gaddock Teague stops it.
EE can be a pretty bad matchup if you don't have Gaddock out. Another thing to keep in mind is the Spellskite. The way Spellskite works with Daybreak, I don't know if you want to touch on that, because that's kind of an unknown thing that comes up pretty often when you play against people that have it.
Yeah, so Spellskite's a really good card for this deck. You want to end up redirecting, as your opponent, you redirect the auras onto Spellskite, so anything you're trying to put onto the Bogle, they just take. The Daybreak Coronet, I've seen a lot of new players in Bogles not quite understand this, but it says enchant creature with an other aura attached to it. So it's not a valid target to try to Daybreak something without an aura already attached. So if you try to redirect Daybreak with Spellskite, it won't resolve. They'll still pay the 2 life, but it's not a valid target, so it won't actually redirect it unless it already has an aura on it as well. But
And the thing is, you won't even lose Daybreak. I think it just doesn't work. Like you'll cast Daybreak, they'll be like, all right, spell sky, and you'll be like, all right, you pay 2 life, but Daybreak I think still hits your target. Or is that incorrect?
sorry, could you say that again?
So if they try to use the spell sky ability to retarget it not only are they paying the 2 life, it doesn't actually retarget. It still goes to the original creature you cast it on.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty similar to game rules for checking the stack and all that. If Spell Sky isn't a legal target, they don't redirect it. So it's just going to stay attached to the Bogle. I don't think I described that very well based on your silence. So if you're targeting
No,
a
no, no,
Bogle
no, no.
with
I
an
think you did.
aura,
My point is if they're like, okay, I want to redirect the spell, and then you're like, okay, it does. Not only does it not redirect because it's not a valid target, it's not like countered. It's not like sent to the graveyard because they tried to redirect it. It still gets enchanted to the creature I chose. So if I try to play it on a Bogle that has an enchantment, and Spellskite tries to counter that, Spellskite basically fails miserably. It'll cost their opponent 2 life, and the Daybreak will still get on my Bogle.
correct. So the Spell Sky can actually redirect Counterspell, but because it's a permanent and not a spell, they still pay 2 life, but the ability fizzles, Counterspell will still counter whatever it was targeting. Same exact concept applies. You redirected it, it's not a you attempt to redirect it. It's not a valid target, so it doesn't get redirected. But I think that's a lot of the fringe cases here. Dryad Arbor is just protection against sacrifice effects, Teague for board clears, and EE. Daybreak's a good card, though, and Hexproof really enables the strategy.
Yeah, and it was also nice to see you use Dromoka's command so effectively. I know I was kind of on the fence about it, but we had some good matchups with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird card. Being 2 mana and modal already makes you need to consider it for something. It's prevent all damage from an instant or sorcery can buy you that one more turn against bird. Most of the time, you're just going to put a 1/1 counter and fight something. You're going to get life off the trigger. And then sacking an enchantment isn't irrelevant, but Leyline made that very hard against our enchantment matchup. Plus, they get to choose it. But I think that's all I've got. Any closing notes?
Not for me. Just like we already said, Bogles is great for entry level tech, and if you're new to Magic and for some reason you're new and you want to get into Modern, of all things, this is a perfectly good deck to try, and it's all cheap now since they reprinted all the pieces recently. So,
Yep, UMA actually did a lot of this. But Bogle, Bogle, doesn't really matter. Well, thanks everyone for watching and hope you enjoyed it.